full-scale production. Okay. You didn't know that?
That was interesting how you guys have kind of picked up. It's such a diverse and competitive market as clothing is.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about how things did. So kind of like with clothes, just like the competitive nature of like retail and other elements. Cool. Mr. Cruz, please come to Dr. Ketchup's office. Mr. Cruz, you can please step in my office. Also, if you're available, the bands and Foxers are playing in the Commons right now.
It's stiff competition.
Mitchell Love downstairs in the Commons, rock and rolling.
You want me to just get into it?
Yeah, we might as well get started.
Cool.
Guys, let's give a quick round of applause for Mr. Jimmy. Here we go. Take it away.
Yep, so Jimmy Sansone, class of '06. I grew up around Saluda my whole life. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. All my brothers went here. You guys probably know, maybe know some of them. But the Normal brand was started about a year and a half to 2 years ago in my parents' basement. So I'll start a little bit before that. Genesis of really starting the company kind of started when I was way younger. So I was started a first business, and it wasn't a sophisticated one, but they really don't have, to be honestly. I started a summer camp when I was 12 years old. I started with my younger brother, who was 13 months younger than me. Basically, we kind of looked around, and we didn't have any money, and we wanted to buy some stuff, and my dad wouldn't give us money. And so he said, go get a job, but we were too young to get a job, and couldn't get rides anywhere. It was just a complete hassle. But what we did have was a lot of brothers and sisters, and so we knew how to babysit. And we knew they had friends. We figured that we could get their friends to let us babysit them. So we started summer camp at 12 and 11 years old, and ran that summer camp until I was graduating college. Made all my money at the beginning, at the first week of the summer, every single summer from the age of 12 to 21 or whatever, until I got a job in finance. I couldn't do that anymore. But I wish I could have, because getting cash right at the beginning of the year was great. So that was my first kind of taste of doing something that's entrepreneurial. It was encouraged by my parents and my family. People just kind of did that stuff. And so, and then with playing sports and doing other kind of things, I'd sell Christmas flowers, poinsettias, I'd seal driveways, kind of do whatever, a little bit out of your comfort zone. So that kind of got me a little bit conditioned, I think, to try some things, be a little bit more not afraid of risk. And so went to college, went to WashU, was a finance major there, never even considered for 1 second having a clothing company. That sounded like a stupid, like, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to be a designer? That sounds silly. There's no way you can make any money doing that. That's not a grown-up profession. But I really loved clothes. And since I was a little kid, just always really paid attention to the details of clothes. I had strong opinions on them. Well, I like it like this, but not like that. That's a good color. I hate that color. I was always just very kind of opinionated. Just kind of a jerk about it. I just didn't like certain things. Like other things. Post-college, I did investment banking, which is the very opposite of anything entrepreneurial. It was extremely kind of be here at 8, leave at 10 p.m. every single day. You're doing finance all day. Analytical, crunching numbers, sitting in my queue kind of all day, and I despised it. I felt like my soul was getting crushed. So had always been kind of looking for an opportunity to do something else. So I actually left it with the idea to do a shoe company. It didn't go well. But I wasn't able to even get it off the ground. But failing in that kind of was helpful because it kind of taught me kind of how to fail. And that was kind of the first time in my life that I felt like I kind of failed at something. So spent the next little bit trying other things and other companies, and had kind of gone back to this idea of a normal shirt. So the way I got the idea from the Normal brand was actually when I was doing investment banking. I was talking to a great girlfriend of mine who actually works for us now. She's director of product development. We grew up together like sisters. She worked in fashion in LA. And I said, I can't find a normal shirt anywhere. Where do I find a normal shirt? So her and I started talking about that. And that was when I kind of made and this was literally just a selfish thing. I wanted a shirt. At the time, the prep craze was huge. Like, everything was like super bright pinks, yellows, pop collars, like the whole thing. I'm sure you guys remember it. Maybe you still do it. But anyways, it just wasn't my thing. It was just a little bit more yacht club and not as much. We like to do stuff out in the country. It was a little bit more rugged, things like that. But still lived in the city, worked in the city. So anyways, that was kind of a normal life to me. This was while I was working in finance, I sent her some like kind of designs, and she actually started making me some shirts. And I started wearing them. People asked me about them, but I didn't really think anything of it. It wasn't until I kind of tried a couple other things that just fell flat on their face, and I was like, well, maybe I should revisit that normal shirt idea. People were asking me about it, but I just kind of ignored it, because I thought I was going to go down this path. So I did revisit it, and kind of put a little bit more effort into it, and started getting some things made. Started putting together the building blocks of the brand, which somebody asked about how do you stand out in a competitive crowd. And anything you do, in my opinion, is built around what your brand is, the foundations of your brand. How do you tell your story? People are selling services and products around the world, across the country, 24/7, 365. And the only ones that stand out, the only ones that do well, I think, are ones that have a good story to tell, because people kind of buy your stories, they don't buy your products. So put a lot of our effort, and still do every single day, into that. With the idea being kind of a better normal, elevating the standard of your everyday. So I wanted a better normal shirt. I didn't think there was something out there that kind of stood up to just what my everyday was. So put kind of a story out there online. I was in my parents' basement, and I really felt kind of like desperate. Like I told you, a couple of things that just didn't go well. And I was in I kind of convinced myself, and I think this was a really, really valuable thing, of if you don't make this work, you're going to fail. And if you fail this time, you're going to have problems, because now you've spent a little time away from banking. You probably won't be able to get into a good MBA school for another year. Like, you're going to have a real problem. This is going to be tough. And so I kind of put myself in this super, super desperate mindset where it's like, if this doesn't work, I'm screwed. And I don't think you necessarily have to be in that position to put yourself in that mindset, but I do think that mindset, for anybody who wants to do anything entrepreneurial, succeed in anything, in kind of a real way, I think you have to put yourself in that mindset of kind of the burn the boats mentality. If this doesn't work, I'm done. Like, you have no retreat plan, you have no plan B, plan C, because it wasn't until I got myself in that position where it was like, because you're going to run into problems every single day. You know, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, oh, I don't have the money to spend on legal to get this copyrighted, oh, I don't have a media budget where I can make this video the way I want it, or whatever it is. You have problems every single day. We still have problems. But to have that kind of desperate mindset, it makes you think creatively of how to go above, around, and kind of through problems. So, like I said, I think that was the real kind of catalyst that got Norm Brand going, was that mindset, which was a different thing than I've ever had to kind of use. So got it going, and built kind of a community online with some hats first. I didn't even have the shirts yet, they hadn't come in yet. So this was March of 2015, I was just selling hats. I was boxing them, packing them, doing them all out of my basement, writing a handwritten note with every single card. Mailman would come every day. I'd have boxes loaded up. I had my younger siblings who were like literally second, third grade helping me box and pack and ship. It was the furthest thing from glamorous. And in fact, I haven't had a glamorous day since. Nothing is glamorous about this. It's a very kind of roll up your sleeves mentality. But I think I did see at the beginning that there was some promise. I did have confidence that when I put my mind to something, and I think a lot of you guys can relate, because if you're at the school, you have the tools, like you have the necessary tools that you need. You're smart, like you're here, you're at SLU, so you are smart enough. So that is not ever going to be an excuse. So I kind of took that on too, where I was like, I know I'm smart enough. Can I work hard enough? And so I attribute. I don't think a lot of things are very complicated. I think that if you put a lot of hard work into something, I think you can make things successful. So anyways, we started selling hats. Those were going well. we were able to kind of cash flow our way into ordering 4 shirts. We talked a little bit about, somebody asked me about how to scale manufacturing. Started with disasters, just absolutely disasters. We were doing stuff in LA in a really small shop. I had samples that were coming back to me that the arm was up to here and the shoulder was down to here. Like, I've never seen uglier. I was like, how can I possibly ever make a shirt that you can actually put on? And but just kind of like chipping away every single day. You run into problems every day, just chip away. And we took our stuff, finally found a reliable at the time supplier, took our stuff to a trade show in August of 2015. And without really knowing what we were doing, a trade show is where you meet kind of retailers around the country. And we had our story down. Like we knew what the brand was about. Brought it to them, and we were able to open retail accounts. We opened 25 or something stores right away. And when we were able to open those stores, that's what kind of allowed us to start operating like a real business. So that was fall 15. We sold those 4 shirts and some hats and a couple bags, I think, through fall 15. Going into spring 16, the collection grew a little bit more. Fall 16, this past fall, was our biggest collection yet. Spring 17, which you see right here, is bigger. And fall 17 will be about 5 times this size. But I don't really think anything has honestly changed since being in the basement. It feels like the exact same thing. I still kind of wake up with a desperate and scared attitude where it's like, well, this day, if it doesn't work this week, I've got real problems. And I think it's really important to kind of keep that mindset. So that's kind of the gist of where the Normal brand is. I'm happy to dive into kind of more specific questions, or if there's something else you guys want to hear about, what we got going on.
Do you want to walk us through the collection a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, so spring for us is, it's not the biggest collection we've done, but this is actually the first time I'll tell you a little bit about supply chain. So people ask about supply chain. Supply chain is incredibly important aspect of the business. And you can get yourself, anybody who does a capital intensive business like that's inventory intensive, that's where you can kind of die, is with your inventory. And so we spent a lot of time growing our team in that product development and working on the supply chain. So we actually had a supplier before. It was one that we had in August, and some things happened, and we were going down the wrong road with them. Just they were kind of becoming a safety net, and things weren't being the right decisions weren't being made. So we actually, this is another example of just kind of cutting the cord and kind of jumping out there on our own. So we went. This is the first spring where we went direct to factories. So we make a lot in Asia. We're going to be making a lot more in the United States in fall 2017. But this is our first time where we are going in. We're kind of maybe getting a little bit too specific, but we're the importer of record. We're the ones who are dealing direct with the factories. And so with that, it's a little bit riskier, but we're able to control a lot more of the process. So we think it's our best collection yet as far as the quality. And but I can just go a little bit through it. I mean, you've seen a website, but so we do this. We made 4 shirts at the beginning. One of them performed by far the best, and that was a blend that we created that we named Pure Meso. Literally, the reason we named it Pure Meso was because we had already spent a lot on copywriting a common word like normal. And I was really tired of paying legal bills, so we decided to make up a word that sounded soft. We thought Pure Meso sounded soft. A lot of people can't pronounce it, which is a shame. But Pure Meso basically it's our knit blend. It was in the first Henley we ever created, which was by far our biggest seller of fall 2015. So we brought that back every single season, but this is the first season we brought it back in a lightweight version. So the reason we called it Pure Meso is because I thought that we could get it through the legal process as quickly and cheaply as possible. So you'll see you've got a bunch of Pure Meso and lightweights, Henleys and polos in different colors. Same thing. Then we did some wovens. My names are really complicated. I name them after my brothers and sisters, but they have a lot of them for the most part. Some more short sleeve wovens. Yeah, more that would actually be named after a supplier, and then a bunch of t-shirts. And then we'll have new hats and bags and stuff coming through. But yeah, so we just launched. We just launched spring. I think like a week or wait. I think we launched it a couple days or last week. Launched it last week, and you know we still run into problems all the time. That shipment was 4 weeks late, and so we had to deal with issues with that. I mean, that was kind of a disaster. Remember, I told you it was our first time where we're kind of in charge of bringing in our stuff, and I was like 4 weeks late. And so you work through problems every day, but I think with the right kind of attitude, you can get through it.
Want to talk a little bit about your social media presence and how you've leveraged that for marketing?
Yeah. So like I mentioned at the beginning, knowing your brand, knowing the foundation of your brand, and it's something we revisit all the time. In fact, we just did a huge kind of whiteboard session internally to kind of look at, okay, where are we? Where do we want to be? What story are we telling? Are we telling it the right way? And you'll see brands evolve all the time. Big brands evolve. And but I think it's important that you are constantly. I'm kind of talking to people who want to. I mean, really, everybody has a brand. You personally have a brand. You know, how do you want to be viewed? You know, how do you want to be? Personally, people have brands. Professionally, you have brands. You have brands if you work for a company or whatever. But specifically for people who eventually want to start a company, that's a really, really, really important thing. And so kind of looking at storytelling is a big part of what we do. So we want, when you go to the Norm Man, we don't want you to see shirts. We want you to see kind of stories. And so that's a lot of what we do on social media. If you go all the way back up, please. Keep going. And then click on the 3 lines, and then we'll go to stories. So this will give you kind of an idea. So this is like our blog, and a lot of social media and a lot of marketing is generated from this. Content is extremely important. Content, to produce good content, is an absolute full-time, 24/7 job. Good photos, good videography, things like that take time. I go back to marketing that we had at the beginning, and it's embarrassing. But it was the best we knew at the time. And, you know, just like it's a process that anything else. Probably in a year, I'll probably be embarrassed with that stupid picture with the fish, honestly. So the hopes are we continually get better. But if you, so everything that we do in social media is we want to tell stories. We started a series. And we're not always, you'll see from us, hopefully, and these are not ideas I come up with on my own. I read a lot of kind of what best practices and people who are successful at what they're doing. And you can learn from kind of anybody. That doesn't just have to be people who sell clothes. In fact, most of the stuff I read is people who sell something completely different. But the idea of not always asking for something. So we try to provide value. Like the kind of a very simple question that we ask when we put on social media is, if I didn't know anything about this, would I think that's cool? Is that something that I value? Does that add anything to my life? And not acting like, you know, we're not saving the world. Look, I know what we're doing. We're selling clothes. But, you know, hopefully we do make people feel a certain way. I think there is power in that. So, but if somebody says, shop now, every single time I see them, I turn them off. Just, you're providing me no value. All you're doing is taking from me. So our kind of mode is kind of, and there's a famous writer who says, you know, you jab a lot, then you kind of do the knockout punch. The idea behind that is you give, then you ask for a sale. And so we take a lot more of a long-term kind of look at things. The reason I bring that up is so like we started this video series a couple months ago, we'll have a new one coming out here at the end of this month called Redefining Normal, where we literally ask for nothing. It's an expensive process for us. We have a fantastic video crew, and we go around trying to find stories around the area and just kind of around the country where we want to tell stories for people to see. So the idea behind Redefining Normal, and it has to work within our brand, but the idea behind Redefining Normal is who's doing something that's beyond the status quo, who's doing something that's a little bit elevated, that's a little bit outside of what the traditional definition of normal would be. So to give you an example, the first one we did was on this company in downtown Kirkwood actually called Sammy Soap. So Sammy Soap, somebody brought this to our attention and we contacted them. They blew us off for a couple weeks. I was like, what are you doing? We're going to do a video on you for free. It's going to be fantastic. Like, let us just come in and interview you. I finally walked in and she was like, oh, I didn't know you guys were, whatever. So we ended up doing this video. Sammy Soap is it's an all-natural soap company located in downtown Kirkwood. But what's really cool about it is its story. There's all-natural soaps all over the time. There's shirt companies all over the place. But the story is what kind of identifies or kind of makes you a little bit different. What their story is, the woman who started, this woman named Karen, her son is Sam. Sam has special needs. And Sam was 22 years old, and the way the system is right now, he was basically kicked out of school. Like, he was no longer allowed to go to the special school district, and she saw him stalling, and his, he wasn't getting any better. In fact, they were putting him just the way it was. He was like in an Alzheimer's unit, sitting on his hands all day at some hospital. So she just couldn't see her son do that. So she thought that he could maybe make soap. And so she kind of started doing it with him. Fast forward, Sammy Soap became a very successful all-natural soap company that is a job vehicle for people with special needs. So they have like 10 or 12 people with special needs who get equal wages, so they don't get paid any less than anybody else would want, if any of you guys walked in there to get a job. And so we thought that was really cool and a story worth telling. And so I think we told that story, and it got hundreds of thousands of views. There was not one thing on there that said shop the Normal brand, buy this shirt, buy this hat. But we thought by providing good content and kind of bringing the story, it would be accretive to our brand, and it absolutely was. So we've got 3 new ones that'll be coming through this summer. But those types of ideas are important to us. The idea of kind of more of a long-term approach. If you look at like a company like Yeti coolers, if you guys all probably know what a Yeti is. Yeti is a real kind of example to us of you have nothing to complain about. Yeti built a $1 billion brand out of a cooler, okay? Out of one stupid cooler. And it's a good cooler, but if you look back at their marketing before, and it's just funny how things can evolve, their marketing used to be, we're Yeti coolers, here's a grizzly bear trying to break our cooler, the grizzly bear can't break our cooler's the best. That did nothing. Then you look at what they're doing now, built for the wild. Yeti coolers are with us when we're on our outdoor activities. They're with us on our big hunts. They're with us. They tell stories about cool 75-year-old men who try to hike the Himalayas or whatever. Just their content is so awesome, and they literally built a $1 billion brand. So we look at a lot of those companies of what they're doing well and try to emulate them as much as we can.
What's the story behind the bear?
So the bear is inspired by the Missouri state flag. So the idea at the beginning was the lifestyle brands at the time were very southern and coastal feel. So fish, whale, you guys probably know the brands. And I wanted something. I'm a St. Louis homer. I love St. Louis. I think there's a lot to be valued here. I love the Midwest. And so the idea of doing something that in a shelf would look different than the whales or the fish, something that was a little bit more rugged, a little bit more manly, a little bit, a bear is a very kind of, it's not very social, kind of, it's usually kind of alone. And I thought that was cool. But, but we're not as much the logo driven. I mean, the logo is very important and it's on all of our labels, but you'll see from us in the future, you're not going to see a lot of like button downs with big bears on and stuff. What else?
So you said you had, like, one of your friends was now the director of product development. So like, how have you grown from it being, I assume like just you or you and a couple other of your friends in the basement to having a diverse,
Yeah.
executive administrative staff?
Yeah, well, it's really, really important. The one thing that I've definitely not talked about is how important the people you surround yourself with. So the team is what makes any of this good at all. I don't do any of that. I kind of see it. But we have a fantastic team that kind of can do these things. So a couple things I think are really important. Buying into what you're doing, buying into kind of your mission, because I can tell you that this is long hours, long nights, and if we kind of put what the hourly wage everybody was getting paid, it would be not good, not good at all. But people like working there because they just kind of build into the team. My brothers who run the company with me, obviously people who you trust. So I've known them my whole lives. They're with me in the basement, so you kind of you can depend on people who are family. That's kind of a cheating, I guess. But then, a lot of our business is not family. And so, but I think we kind of know right away. We've had people who have interned for us. From these like really kind of premium programs at WashU and other like grade schools around the country. Then we've had people show up at our doorstep who go to UMSL or who go to, not to say that's any best, but that's not, it's a fine school, but if you compare it to like a WashU, which is this Ivy League of the Midwest type thing, the person at WashU was terrible. The one who showed up on our doorstep from UMSL was fantastic. So we don't care about your paper resume at all. We just kind of want people who buy into what you're doing, big on teamwork, and work hard. So that's kind of been, kind of a big thing for us is if you're the type of person, there's a piece of trash on the floor when you walk into the room, you pick it up. That I think is a really important thing. Doers like that, not somebody who looks for somebody else to do it. So that's been important.
So what you're talking about there is something, I'm the guy that's supposed to be looking after the mission along with hundreds of other things. You're talking about that?
Yeah.
I mean, so can you just say a word about values, your time at St. Lucie High, and
Sure.
values and some of the deeper things we're about at this place and the way you conducted it?
Yeah, absolutely. Community is extremely important at SLU, and kind of being a part of the team. I had friends who went to schools all over, just all over the MCC really. And so you're kind of comparing apples to apples there as far as Catholic schools. And I just know that this is a different place. Just the way they treated each other. So when we look at it as in sports, we're very influential in my life. So the way we build our team is very much teamwork focused. So that's extremely important. Kind of everybody pitching in, not worried about kind of what you're doing individually or who's getting accolades, really buying into the mission of the team and trying to build a team. So people do a lot of, yesterday, just to give you like an example, we had a problem with the labels on our shirts. A stupid administrative thing that never should have happened that could have got us in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission. It's just a stupid like RN number. So I spent, we have a girl who just started with us who was cutting these little labels that we had to iron on hundreds of shirts. So I started doing it, and this is not anybody who else would have walked by on our team, I think would have done the same thing, but she was doing it, she's like, no, I got it. So I spent all night with her just cutting those labels. So, and then ironing them on. My point is, everybody on our team would have done that same thing, and I think that's the idea of kind of buying into the mission of your organization, of that, we're kind of all in this together, is really important. So it's a very flat organization. Everybody does kind of their jobs.
Can you give us some by the numbers sort of on your growth and where you are and who is employed and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we've grown 300% year over year. We're looking at growing 300% again this year. We started with one retailer in summer of 15. we should have, by the end of 2017, probably 400 retailers around the country. There's 10 of us, I think, full-time. Hopefully we'll build some more there. I'm really happy with the 10 that we have. We started with 4 styles. I think in fall 17 we'll have something like 40 styles. So inventory is getting deeper and more diverse. As far as, revenue goes, it's not something that we talk about publicly really, but it's way more than what we thought. It's way more than we kind of ever thought. There's been a lot of things that have been helpful in that. We've been able to get some cool awards like Art Trance in St. Louis, which is somebody asked about being in St. Louis. I think being in St. Louis is advantageous for a lot of reasons. I think that St. Louis looks at itself as very much of an underdog, and I think that's a good kind of a chip on their shoulder. And so hopefully they continue it, looking to kind of grow the startup community around here. When I first started, a couple of years ago, the startup community was way different. So the way it's grown has been really cool. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for guys like you who want to get involved in the local community and kind of working in startups, which is something that I would certainly recommend taking advantage of. I think it's got to be the right company, but I think there's a lot of those. Ours being one.
I would say in your time developing the company and the brand, your past sort of 2 years, have you seen any other companies, kind of like Sammy Soap, that have tried to sort of maybe emulate you or just sort of sprung up from nothing kind of in the area?
My first office was in, it's called T-Rex, it's downtown, it's like a startup space, incubator type space. I was in a utility closet that was like the size of that corner, it was tiny, but I loved it. And there were companies all around me who were just as young as me, or as young as us, and have grown a lot. There's not one that kind of, we're doing a redefining normal on this company that just started a little bit ago called Reclaim Renew. And I wouldn't label it a startup, but it was basically a startup, and hopefully you guys will see the video in a couple weeks, but it was started by a minister who didn't think he was doing enough good work out there, just being a minister. So he started a wood shop. He started making furniture, and he employs refugees and ex-cons. And we got a chance to go there and interview them and spend the day with them, and it was like just insanely impressive, just kind of what they're doing. So I think there's great stories all over the place. I think St. Louis has a lot.
Have you had any challenges with manufacturers that are already scaled up trying to knock off what you're doing?
There's definitely copycats out there, but it goes back to what I said about your brand is what differentiates you. I bet you people in this room have a strong opinion on Nike versus ASICS. Okay, when you boil it down, the product is not that different from a running shoe. But I bet there are strong opinions on here. That's because you buy into one brand or the other. So that's what we kind of work on. There's no patentable things with regard to a shirt. We want to make a fantastic product, and we put a lot of work into making a fantastic product. But when it comes down to it, if we're not telling the right story, we're going to become a shirt company. But there are other problems with manufacturers, and this goes in anybody who's looking to kind of start a business, is they don't want to deal with you when you're small. So we don't run into this. We still do run into it. We deal with minimums all the time, but one thing we try to do with every single person we're talking to, whether it is a competitor, whether it's a potential client, whether it's a potential vendor or a supplier, whatever it is sell them on what we're doing. So we always try to be on.
So with the brand, have you ever thought about expanding beyond clothes with the brand, or just strictly the normal brand clothes?
Yeah, we do. We think about it, but I almost got us in some trouble a while ago trying to expand a little too quickly. And so we're really kind of back to the mindset of let's do what we do now, let's own that, let's really dominate kind of the men's market, and we'll expand when we have our head around this, because if you try to expand too quickly, I think you get yourself in a lot of trouble. Like I said, you kind of live and die by the inventory, so if you get a bunch of inventory that you don't really know what to do with, you've got problems.
So I sell shirts too, and I was wondering like what advice you have for like ordering a certain amount of quantity, because like when you order shirts, you don't know exactly how many you're selling, and like different sizes is like a hassle to trying to guess.
Yeah, so with inventory, I would try to limit your risk up front as much as you can. So try to find creative ways to pre-sell them. So maybe you can get a sample of them and you put it online. You say, hey, who likes this one or who likes that one? Try to pre-sell as much as you can, then buy that number. If you can't do that, buy the least amount you possibly can and sell out. Selling out's a good profit.
Guys, the bell just rang. Let's give a quick round of applause.
I got stickers for you guys. Maybe
Great.
just come up here.
Yeah, and I know some, the normal brand has asked if maybe there are some guys who are interested in doing some video internships. So some of you guys have submitted some info that I'm going to pass on to Jimmy. But if you want to introduce yourselves, if you're one of those guys, please do so. Thank you very much.